I've been playing D'Addario strings for 12 years. When I first joined the band, I was experimenting. You try different strings, you see what works, you see what's comfortable, and then you find what you like, and it's like, cool, that works. No need to change that.
It's been 5 years. You guys have a kind of a new setup, but a new record, and congrats on that.
Thank you.
It's a process that I'd like to explore real quick, is that you guys, created ideas, shared them. We just talked to Seb, and he said you guys had deadlines every Friday, sharing them on Dropbox.
I did.
Kind of devoured those and probably ingested them and worked on those. But an Airbnb, right?
Yes.
That's where we recorded. Yeah.
We did.
What was that experience like? Because not only recording an Airbnb, which I'm sure is not a thing that they put in the listing, like great for acoustics. And then also you guys did production yourself, so I'm sure that was a whole different experience.
Yeah, it was really, I don't know, I had a blast doing it.
Yeah.
It was a very rewarding experience. I think we all enjoyed it.
I think we kind of lucked out with the acoustics of the house. We walked in, there was like a stone wall and then like an adjacent brick wall and then like sheetrock that didn't go all the way to the ceiling, so we could put mics like up there. We kind of like struck gold with the layout of this random Pennsylvania mountain
Or was it?
retreat.
Was it actually? It was actually New York. I think
Oh,
it was
you're right.
just
I'm sorry.
over the, it was just
Barryville, New
over the
York.
river into New York.
We did do a short Airbnb like vocal
Correct.
Okay.
session where we were just trying to be out of the way of like.
Who's in charge of booking these
Ever.
in the band?
I think it was kind of a team. It was more of a team effort.
Shared the link,
Yeah, I
everyone
mean,
proofed it.
Sebastian and
Nick
Nick
and Seb went and
definitely did the scouting on the full Airbnb that we made the 98% of the record in, just to make sure that it would potentially sound good. But you don't actually know until you've got equipment and you're recording what it's going to sound like. So I think Gina's very correct. We got extremely lucky, but it was the whole process was fun. It was just like nonstop hard work. We didn't really break or give ourselves leisure time per se. It just kind of was like all hands on deck all the time because there's four of us, and not only are we writing and arranging the songs during the process, but we're also engineering. Setting up microphones on a nearly constant daily basis, and then doing the tape op or the actual recording. It would sort of be like the situation where we're all in one big room, facing in, and we would just jam 8-10 hours a day until we were ready, and then the recording process was kind of. I mean, it was kind of funny because we didn't have an assistant engineer or producer or anybody. It was like, okay, everybody remember what we just did, and then one of us would run into the other room, press the space bar on the computer. It was like 30 feet away. Then come back in, count in and play, and like time is kind of money in a typical studio situation. But because this was a month, we had it for a month.
Okay.
And because we had it sort of wired up to be functional for whatever we wanted, that kind of time expenditure wasn't really like too much of a pain in the butt for us.
Yeah.
It just was sort of annoying that you'd go through this minute and a half long, 2 minute long process of like getting ready to record and then pressing record and then you come back in and then like somebody flubs and then you've got to stand up, go back in, erase it, start from scratch all over again.
Yeah.
But I think that realities like that in the situation we were in actually helped us because it made us value each performance that we captured. It made us really value those things, and it kept us very focused. I think we were talking about this last week, like trying to share stories from being in there for a month, or trying to share photos or videos.
We don't really have any stories.
We don't have stories or photos
grinding.
or videos. It was just
bad.
it was just work.
Just
yeah,
like,
but it was
working
great.
really hard in here.
We because of the way we had it set up, it was sort of like the first half of the day would always be rehearsing and jamming and like really working at the musical aspects and the arrangement aspects of things, and then the second half of the day, and I'm being a little bit loose with this, but generally speaking, the second half of the day we'd be prepared and we'd be recording, and there just wasn't, due to the just being four people trying to do the work of 6 or 7 day in and day out, we're just always moving and working, and I think it's the way that records. It's one very good way that records can be written.
Yeah, I bet. And I'm sure having, like you said, everyone's wearing several hats, the focus had to be there. And I'm sure just almost learning things on the fly, or I'm sure you guys all have experience in recording demos and stuff like that, but having it to be, it's your job's on the line, it's your duty to do these things correctly. I'm sure you were figuring things out on the fly too.
Yeah,
Amazing, like more things didn't go wrong.
Oh,
Like there was like one time where like there's like a bad XLR and we're like chasing down like lines and but I was like, man, that could have been the whole month.
Yeah, but yeah, like literally, like if the power hadn't been adequate in the room, in the house, if we were in a situation where we were like blowing fuses, or if the nature of the power wasn't conditioned well enough to the point where we're getting like a lot of external noise or hum or feedback or anything like that, we wouldn't have had a solution. We're not electricians.
Yeah.
We're not full-time engineers. So, we really got lucky.
We got lucky.
Yeah, nothing. All it would have taken was anything important to break, and we would have been done.
Yeah,
For the
absolutely.
day, the week, the month.
Yeah, and you would have been in an Airbnb just hanging, I guess.
Hanging out.
Yeah, like 2.5 hours
Absolutely.
from anything resembling a technician that could help us. So it was cool. It was the pressure was a nice motivator. The closeness for the four of us, I think, was really helpful because we really got into a very good rehearsal, engineering, production, arrangement, composition, recording habit that was consistent and solid and steady, and we had the time in the process to let the songs sort of develop and blossom as we were writing them, which was nice.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of experiences that you guys, if you were to remember, of things organically shifting and changing and transforming into different starting and ending points based on your guys' time and being able to digest those ideas and then come out with a whole different thought process or a application of whether it's tones that you're chasing or sounds or melodies. I'm sure that was a good experimentation land.
I feel
Absolutely.
like that was like 50% of it was just monkeying around and seeing if we could make something that didn't seem like it should sound cool. Sound cool, or using, like we're pretty avid. We look into the world of audio pretty avidly. Like we're all pretty well versed and well equipped in a studio situation to make decisions like that. So we got to experiment around a little bit and do some things that we maybe wouldn't have had time to do in a more financially all-consuming studio situation. So we could play with putting mics in bonkers places or using equipment that was just kind of funky and wild. And I think that's the sort of thing that the four of us really enjoy because it in fact inspires new ideas, which then supersede the ideas that we thought we were working on and become focal points. So we quite frequently at the end of a tracking session, we'd be really surprised at the result because it wasn't what we intended, and it was that unburdening yourself of intentions that I think was really helpful with this record.
Now, talking about gear, you guys, how did you guys approach what you took into the Airbnb? Was it trying to take as much of your, I guess, live arsenal, or take anything at your disposal, or what was that? Bringing it back to the gear aspect of things.
We took everything.
I think we took everything.
Yeah,
everything we
could
had.
think of. Yeah, filled a huge U-Haul truck full of everything and anything.
Find. Yeah.
No pedal left behind. It's a little bit unnecessary.
It was we
didn't know that
extremely unnecessary
at the time. Yeah.
Would I do it any differently? No.
No,
Probably not,
Is
yeah.
John capable of doing it any differently?
I don't think so. I think so. With a little bit of an old dog, new tricks.
Now,
Yeah,
were there
no, we took everything.
were you using some of your live gears? We'll get into that now. Like,
Yeah.
as the live instruments, were they represented on the new record?
Oh, for
Absolutely,
sure. For
yeah.
sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
everything we brought, the majority of stuff that we brought, we figured out some use for.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's short of just a couple of really vintage boutique things that don't come on the road.
Okay.
Everything that we use live is on the record.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what are some aspects of those vintage pieces that maybe people aren't aware of if they haven't read any other interviews or have heard you guys talk about the record that get used? I know you have a 330 or 335 that you use in recordings.
It's what is it? It's
like an old Gibson.
Yeah, well, it's you just made me forget what it is. I think it's a
335,
330.
right?
Okay.
Oh, 330?
35's the humbuckers, 30 is the P90s, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the one with the P9s, because like a 62 Gibson. That, yeah, I mean, a great deal of the, I would say that like the amp tone on that record comes from two vintage amps that we or three vintage amps that we really favor, which is I've got like a 72 Fender Vibro Champ that's been modded so the tone circuit's pulled out of it, so when you crank it, it's just like
more.
It's just lots of
There's
distortion.
A lot of that one cranked. We did a lot of like miking the back of that specific amp. That Gibson, we have an old Gibson Falcon, or that era of Gibson amps that are
almost looks something like a piece of furniture or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like a late 50s, mid-century modern amp.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Does not come on tour, but it is great in the studio.
It is a great, that's a great amp.
A lot of tones we got out of just miking John's Gibson, just not plugged in, just getting the resonant sound of the hollow body. That was like a great texture to layer with like acoustics.
And that was a thing that I heard when I was really young, that Dave Navarro did in the Been Caught Stealin'. Like that whole track is him like strumming an electric guitar that's just mic'd. And so I think we did it once or twice on Blue, and we hadn't done anything like that in a while, and I can't remember what we did on maybe two tracks.
Songs, definitely a track called Magnolia.
Okay.
We tracked some acoustic outside in the freezing cold where we had like
it was 27, 28 degrees
cup
outside.
of like hot water that I kept like putting my hands around in between takes, and then we doubled that with the Gibson, just resonant sound, and we did I don't know. There's way more acoustic on the record than I ever like remember, but I think there's acoustic on almost every song. Like whether it's a layer in like a chorus just to bring some brightness to and excitement to the choruses, or if it's like a main kind of part or whatever. But that was a cool trick.
Yeah, but that was on what she was saying. Like we do always allow ourselves actually a great deal of time to do things that are sort of concepts that you come up with just like in an immediate sense, like a spontaneous concept that sounds kind of like silly, like the Magnolia acoustic intro. It wasn't cold. It was below freezing. It wasn't. It was like one take at a time, and you got to like warm your hands up. It was more like an environmental decision that seemed like it would affect the performance and potentially bring something cool out. So then there's the added pressure of like, I've only got so long before my fingers stop working, and it's a little windy, which is tricky to work with in a studio situation. Yeah. So I think it like colors the performance maybe in a subtle way that it would be hard for us to articulate, but it lends itself to like a feeling on record, which I think is actually quite important. I think really Stone is in many cases it's about us trying, almost in a scientific way, how to get creative results, like foreseeable creative results out of different environments like that. But then another an auxiliary thing that comes along with that, for instance, again with the Magnolia acoustic intro that Gina's doing, is there's one point where a gust of wind sort of hits the mic and depresses the capsule, and completely her guitar completely is obscured by a wind gust, and that's cool to us. Yeah. That like lends itself to the environmental aspect of it. So when we're at the mixing stage with Joe Barisi out in Los Angeles, he's like, I can fix this, like, but we that wasn't something we were interested in. So or the last word solo that Gina does it really is the sound of like her guitar and that Vibro Champ just dimed and in my dining room at 3 a.m. or something. So it's like I do think that those environmental aspects of recording can really be important factors to the listener, but certainly to the musician themselves. I mean, you hear stories about like Pink Floyd, there's certain tales from their legacy, or Zeppelin, all these cool recording stories, and I think we just wanted to have a lot of those versions of our own stories.